Welcome back to Out with the New and with the Old. Today, I got written on there bike culture, but we're going to go over what's happened to motorcycling in the past 40 years, 50 years, I guess. Kind of hard to believe, but I've been riding 50 years. Uh, I, uh, I rode various bikes. Well, the first time I rode one was, I guess I was about 8 years old. Uh, it was a converted 100cc bike to be used on dirt, but it wasn't a dirt bike. And it only had a front brake, which caused me to have several accidents on downhill, gravelly situations. Um, but anyway, that's what we had. And then there were some other bikes in between then and when I got my license at 17. Uh, and of course, I had to have a street bike. Uh, I remember in the neighborhood, and we're talking in the 70s now, mid 70s. Uh, there was one guy that had Triumphs, young guy. In fact, he was still in high school, but he built one Triumph Bonneville out of boxes that he somehow accumulated. And he would come down the street standing on the seat, hands in the air, somehow fix the throttle. And, well, that's cool. Another guy in the neighborhood had a Norton 850, one of the last Commandos, red, gold stripes. Um, One of my brother's friends had a Honda 450 double overhead cam, which, at that time, it was kind of a big motorcycle. Nowadays, you like, oh, beginner bikes, or, people come up with, 800, 900cc bikes that are beginner bikes. But back then, beginner bikes were like, 175, 150cc, Uh, but bikes were, it was a different thing back then. It was altogether different. Motorcycles were like really cool, and it didn't have to be a Harley. Motorcycles, period, were cool. Um, when I went in the Navy, I got my first street bike, and I got a good friend in the barracks. He saw me out there playing around with my bike. Oh man, I need to bring mine down from home. He lived in Maryland, which was about 180 miles from the base. Said he was going to go up there and get his bike, and we could ride. And I barely knew him, but we kind of hit it off. We seemed to find each other easy to talk to, and ended up being one of my best friends. But he had a Honda 750. Keep in mind, this is like 1981. He had a 74 750. And while he was in high school, he worked at a motorcycle shop. And he brought that 750 in there and took the engine out and redid it in the shop. He did it with a 903 big bore kit. He ported the head himself. He put a cam in it, single overhead cam, put a hot cam in it, put Mikuni smooth bores on it, and a header. And I remember when I met him, well, when he brought the bike back to the base, he was telling me, well, I'm going to put my other sprocket back on. Because he put a sprocket on to ride it down, and then he had another sprocket that he used to ride around. And me and him took off and riding our bikes, and his bike was just like leaving me in the. We would take off, and I'd jump him out of a hole, and then he would just like blow by me and just continue to fly. I was like, holy crap. So now I was shopping for a new bike. And what I found was an XS 1100 Yamaha, used one. I think it was 2 years old. And I could run with him side by side on that bike. We'd drag race, and literally neck and neck. Whoever got the whole shot probably won, but it was so close. And I was like, well, at least now, he's not dusting me. Uh, and over time, beating the crap out of that Yamaha, I got it to where I was hopping in and out of second gear. Common problem with those bikes if you ride them hard. Took it apart. Got the gear, got it back cut, ordered from Vance and Hines. They did the back cutting on it. And I ordered cams, and I didn't port the head, but I cleaned the head up, cleaned the casting marks out of it. Put the cams in, jetted the carbs, put pod filters on, got a header, got one that was known to make top end power. I was, kind of taking the really nice part of those Yamaha XS11s is they had a big blob of mid-range torque, and I removed that. But I also, when I got done, the bike would pull. It actually made power 2,000 RPM past its red line, made a lot of power past it. Where when it was stock, it flattened out at about 8, and then at 8,500, it was, that was red line. But it started to kind of flatten out at 8. When I got done, it pulled hard to 10.5. The bike was unbelievably faster. I couldn't believe it because I'd never done anything like that before. I just kind of, first time I ever took an engine apart. And I was real careful. It took me about a month to put it all together. And of course, at that point, now my buddy, I am leaving him behind. He even said he commented on how the bike sounded. He goes, "Oh my God, it sounds like a Hoover vacuum cleaner ready to suck everything up." And it did. It just had a howl to it that was crazy. And that was with the stock bottom end. I mean, I didn't put a big bore kit or anything in it. I was already at my money's limits. We didn't make much. We were pretty new in the Navy, and I think I was airman. I wasn't even a third class petty officer yet. I was still an airman. Anyway, where I'm going with this is bikes. You got involved with them, and it wasn't just me doing that and my buddy doing that. Everybody that had one got involved. Another really close friend of mine in the Navy was a Harley guy through and through. And when he arrived, he was chaining his bike up to a pole out at the barracks parking lot, and someone stole it. And there's a big, long story to how he never got that bike back, but he got one. Anyway, that's another story. I won't even go there right now. He ended up buying a brand new FLHS, one of the last shovel heads, really good looking bike. No bags, no nothing, but the FL. Just a great looking bike. And apparently only 1,500 were made of them that year. And when he got it home, the first thing he did was strip it down and start sanding the paint off of it. He ordered pipes. He ordered a carburetor. He ordered S&S super kit and all kinds of other things. The bike wasn't even a week old. And that's how he attacked that bike. And it looked pretty good when he was done. He did a custom candy paint job on it, and it came out really good. He won his class in a show we used to go to, Street Custom. Anyway, that's the way bike people used to be. Now you go, you buy a new bike, you open a catalog, you order whatever parts you think you're going to get. But bike sales are slowing down just like car sales are. And it's for the same reasons. They're getting too technological. They're losing their soul, and people can't work on them anymore. And why I told you those stories was that's what we did. That put your signature on your bike, that you worked on it. You did something to it. Now it had your signature. And that's all but gone. I mean, you look at choppers that were made back then. Guys made stuff. They didn't open a catalog and buy it. And we're talking, these aren't. We're not talking about guys that were custom shops and expert mechanics. They got the bike and they learned how to do that stuff. You know, they taught themselves, and they may have learned from some other people, but they did it themselves. Everybody did their own thing with their bikes, and that's what made them so cool. And now what I see is people use bikes for identification. You know, Harley's like this. You know, you got the guys that gotta look like a biker. You know, it's like they got to put the attire on. They got to make themselves look like a biker. Not all of them, but a lot. You know, a good portion of them. Guys on the sport bikes, you know, and that's another thing. You know, back when I was getting hot rod bikes, there was no sport bikes. I mean, bikes like the KZ900s and the XS11s and the Honda CBFs, you know, the big fours, Suzuki with the GS 1000s and 1100, all those bikes were good touring bikes, but they were also raced. They were very, for the time, fast. They're still fast. They're still very fast bikes, and they're great bikes. You can't buy a sport bike today that rides like any of those bikes. Those bikes rode nice. They were comfortable. You sat straight up on them. If you want to race them, then you put your lower bars on them. But you had to do that. You had to make it for what you wanted it to do, and it would do it. But now everything's in a category. You know, you got cruisers, you got sport bikes, you know, and there ain't a whole lot in between. I mean, you know, I guess customs, which kind of to me, they're same thing as touring bikes. You know, I guess you got those. Which leads me to where this channel always leads to, and that's saving money. You know, a new touring Harley is somewhere in the $30,000 to $40,000 range. I think $34,000 for a road glide. I think you can get a used touring bike, a Harley, with less than 20,000 miles on it for less than $10,000, and have a bike, if you maintain it, literally just keep going. So here we are, you know, at the same place in motorcycles that we are with cars and pickup trucks. We have gotten to a point with motorcycles that the sales are dying off terribly. I think Harley sales this year are down 40%. And people can't spend that kind of money. I mean, the economy's going down the drain. People can't just walk in and this bike, I did the inflation on it. This bike actually costs more than a new Super Glide does now with inflation figured in. I think that bike was $13,000 new. And the new Super Glide is $16,000. But if you can get it $16,000 at a Harley dealership, more power to you. I've heard that's impossible. I've heard that they're going to try to tack $5,000 on it, one way or another. And it's funny that they can be hurting that bad and still deal like that. But that's why we have this channel, because that's a $5,000 motorcycle that had actually less than 9,000 miles on it when I bought it. I had to clean it up, but it's pretty much like a new motorcycle. It runs and rides like a new motorcycle. I had to do a couple things to it because it sat a lot, but I cleaned it up. It looks like a new one. It just, they don't make this anymore. Dynas, they're done being made. But I guess the point of the video is, if you are still one of those guys, you know, you can buy one of these, and you can actually probably do more to this than you could to a new one. I'm sure there's a big aftermarket for them, but these bikes have a following, you know, and they are fun to ride. I mean, I had a lot of fast bikes, and, you know, the old saying goes, it's more fun to ride something slow fast than something fast slow. Well, there is truth to that. I've had, you know, back in the 80s, I had probably all of the different brands of the fastest bikes at one point or another. I had a Honda CBX, KZ900, XS 1100. You know, all of those bikes were at some point the fastest bike. I got a Bandit 1200, you know, thinking that would satisfy my urge, and it it pretty much ran like the old bikes did. It was about that fast, stock, which was better. I mean, I could have done things to it. And then I bought a Hayabusa. And then I was like, oh, this is a new level. And it was. I mean, that bike was really fast. And I really liked it. I kept it, I kept it 8 or 9 years. And I wasn't a big fan of the riding position, but it wasn't terrible. It was relatively comfortable. It rode relatively well. The problem with that bike is it wasn't settled until it was doing 120 miles an hour. That's where it was supposed to be. You know, like these old bikes I talk about, when you did a 120 on them, you knew you were going 120. You were very aware of it. On that bike, it didn't feel like much. It felt like it was just getting ready to settle down and handle right. Which, you know, that's another reason to get an older bike, because bikes that fast and that good aren't a great idea on the street. I mean, it's nice to have that handling ability, but when you have that bike's ability, you're going to use it, and you're going to find yourself doing 175 miles an hour somewhere, because it gets there pretty quick. It's not like it takes a long time and you got to be consciously holding the throttle and tucking in and waiting for it to go that fast. It won't take that long to go that fast. It'll get to 150 really fast. And at that point, you know, you're playing with fire on public roads. It's extremely dangerous. I lived through it, you know, and I did that crap in my late 40s. So I guess a younger guy with quicker reflexes, you know, but it's still dangerous. You can have just as much fun. I won't say I'm one of these, but on a 4-cylinder old air-cooled bike that I used to ride, those bikes, they gave you the sensation of speed, and they were fast. Were they that fast? No. Do you need to go that fast? No. Even those bikes were dangerous. I mean, but at least when you got to those speeds, you knew what you were doing. You knew it was dangerous. On the Hayabusa, it doesn't feel dangerous. It feels just fine, like everything's hunky-dory. But anyway, let's see what I got wrote down here. Not much. I started this video out because I wanted to talk about how bike culture's changed, and I kind of got off track and went to what my channel is all about, and that's saving money. And, you know, I guess you could go buy a new bike, but anything with appreciable performance, if you're into that, is going to cost $15,000. You can get old stuff, crap. You can get old Japanese bikes, ZRX 1100s and 1200s. Those are good, fast bikes and handle good. And you can get them for less than $5,000 any day of the week. And they've got a known reliability of great. They're almost like an LS engine in a Chevy. They don't break. Anyway, so I just wanted to bring that stuff up. I have a lot of fun on this, but you know, I'm 64, just about. I'll be 64 here very shortly, and I mean, it goes over 100, and when it does, you damn sure know you're going that fast. It's actually borderline scary at 100, 105, but these bikes are not meant for high speed. 70 is good. 70, 75 on one of these, that's fine. But you start trying to poke at 100 on one, they're not meant for it. They do their weaves and all that, you know. But that's what I mean. You're riding a slow bike fast and around turns, you know. I mean, they're going to scrape easy, but even before they're scraping, you can feel the handling limitations of it. So you're pushing a bike that's not meant to go through turns, and there's some satisfaction to that. There is guys that ride these things specially set up and actually beat sport bikes on them, but I'm not going to spend that kind of money. I'm just going to enjoy it the way it is, because most of the time I just want to go down the highway and kick back and listen to it. But anyway, I guess that'll be the video for today. Kind of got off the wall on it, but just keep looking at the old bikes. There's lots of good ones out there. Maybe I'll try to do a decades thing on bikes like I did the cars. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.